think I've spoken like 5 words since I finished the game last night. And that was only like good morning and thank you. I don't know how this series keeps doing this to me. And I have to apologize for my voice. It still hasn't recovered from the 5-hour stream we did the night before. But I had to do this, man. I had to come on here and just attempt to formulate and process and put together everything that's both in the noggin right now and in my heart, man. Because this was unbelievably special stuff, dude. I mean this in the most emotional way possible. If you're not a fan of those words, man. If you're not a fan of the words Goat, Raw, Fire, and Peak, maybe with some tears included, then don't watch the rest of this video, man, because sweet mother of flagnards, man. I have to give it up to this franchise, bro. I really do. I have to give it so much props. Because it sort of, it forces me to post where I'm at in the moment. Because it's something I just want to share with people. And even though it is the most rarest of rare of things for me to do, this franchise managed to do it, has managed that out of me twice. I played through Xenosaga 2 right before this, and I really enjoyed that game. I really, really enjoyed it, man. As far as the story is concerned. Some really powerful stuff that without it I couldn't even imagine how this game would have gone, and my connection to certain characters. And I have to give a massive thank you to the individuals who told me to experience Missing Year, because I'd already experienced Pied Piper after Xenosaga 2. But Pied Piper right at the beginning, or Missing Year right at the beginning of this playthrough. And for anybody watching the spoiler-free section, I would highly recommend, if you were to play through the Xenosaga trilogy, play Xenosaga 1, then Pied Piper, go into Xenosaga 2, then Missing Year, and then Xenosaga 3. You'll have to find a watch-through of, or a playthrough of Pied Piper to watch. I don't even know if you can play that game. And for Missing Year, it's like a visual novel. There's a playlist on YouTube. And I have to give a massive thank you to my boy NL. Because he was like, yo, you should probably finish Xenosaga before you complete the Xenoblade trilogy. And it's something that I'd already been wanting to do, because after Xenoblade 1 and 2... Let me give some background into, just in case you've never seen any of the videos before, let me give you some background to my Xeno journey and where I'm at right now. So, where I really properly started was with Xenogears. I'd played X on the Wii, on the Wii U, thinking it was Xenoblade 1. But I played a little bit of that, and definitely forward to replaying that, because I don't remember anything besides like the grassy plains and some of the character designs. My first true experience was Xenogears, back when I finished the Trails series, and I wanted to find something like it. And Xenogears completely changed my brain chemistry, man, for a very long time. And I did 2 playthroughs of that before I went on to any other Xeno game. And then I started playing Xenosaga 1, and I finished Xenosaga 1, and I really enjoyed it. But then a lot of time passed before I ever came back to the Xeno trilogy, or the Xeno series. And it wasn't until this year where I played Xenoblade 1 that I felt the itch to truly want to keep going. Because after Xenogears, I was like, this series is never going to reach those peaks ever again. It's impossible. There's just no way. And like I said, as much as I enjoyed Xenosaga 1, I was like, it just can't. You know, that's the pinnacle. You can't get higher than that. And I played Xenoblade 1 and I loved it so much. I loved it so much that I was like locked in, man. I was like, this is exactly what I needed right at this moment. And then I played Xenoblade 2 and it completely changed everything for me. One of the most special experiences I've ever had. And after that, and NL's message, I was like, I gotta go back and see what the rest of the series has to offer before I finish catching up to where the series is. Or if it's concluded, I don't even know. So then I went back to Xenosaga 2. And like I said, and really enjoyed it. And my plan was, because I'm in the middle of trying to get ready for a big weekend this next upcoming week for my own personal journey, right? And it's going to be massive, and I've been preparing for it the entire year. And my plan was, I'd play Xenosaga on my own. I don't need to share my journey, my experience. You know, the Xenoblade 2 thing was a one-off. You know, no other game is going to make me do that again, because that is a rarity. Like I said, it's a rarity. I normally keep a lot of that stuff to myself. But I think that's what made Xenosaga 3 so beautiful. From the moment it started, similar to Xenoblade 2, I just wanted to talk about it. Talk about how cool it was. Talk about how crazy it is. How emotional and intense and unbelievable it is. This game created in 2006 could evoke so much out of you. Boy, I just couldn't believe it. I mean, seriously, from the moment that it starts, I was like, I'm just at a loss, man. And it stayed that way until the end credits, until that's it. Save the game. You know, after I finished Xenoblade 2, I talked about this in my top 10 favorite experiences of the year. But after I finished Xenoblade 2, the final chapter of that game really made me want to go back and truly experience the Space Odyssey series. Arthur C. Clarke's. It was turned into a movie, obviously, the one that we all know, with Stanley Kubrick. But I was really interested on properly going through that as a novel, because I was just in the mood for it coming off of the first two Xenoblade games. And so, you know, I'm going through that. And obviously, you know, the soundtrack spake Zarathustra for that movie. So when I saw that this game was titled that, it was like the perfect mesh of like, I'm currently reading through this series, Arthur C. Clarke's Odyssey series. And there's a game titled Thus Spake Zarathustra in German, because that's how all of the subtitles for each Xenosaga game have been. But this one being that had me so shook and interested. And from the title, from the jump, I was like, no, man, I'm locked in. I'm locked in. This is an unbelievably special journey, man. And if I could say anything to wrap up my thoughts on this particular section, it's that this game is about choices. There's a lot of stuff involved, right? A lot of stuff, many different things I'm looking forward to talking about here. But at its core, it's the choices, man. Between the things you feel like you should do and the things that make you happy. things that you desire from the bottom of my heart, the thing you believe is right, or between just so many different things, but they're all choices that you make. And after I finished my rewatch of Attack on Titan a few years ago, there's an episode in Attack on Titan that really exemplifies how you can make choice into something really cool and unique as a storytelling device. Because obviously every story is a series of choices. But when you emphasize the choice, or the choices, it makes it extremely powerful. And what this game does is tailors the entire game around one specific choice that needs to be made and the series of choices that leads to that. And it's done so unbelievably well. And it really spoke to me because, you know, my greatest desire, the reason why I started this YouTube channel, is to share and talk about what I love with other people. And after a certain point, specifically during the Gintama years, I received so much pushback from that particular community that it sort of broke my heart. And I wondered whether I wanted to share my journey with a series ever again. And it wasn't a decision I made consciously, it was one that was more like subconsciously. And that's why stuff like the Trails journey and things like that, that bring that out of me again, are so special to me. And what Xeno has done is truly get that out of me. Where it brought me back to my roots of why I decided to do all this YouTube stuff in the first place. And so I have to thank the community, man, once again, for accepting your boy with open arms. And if I ever had to make a choice while playing through this franchise, whether to share my thoughts or not share my thoughts, I'm so glad that the stuff happening on screen pushed me to not even care about ever even attempting to answer that question. Because I just wanted to share how cool this flipping game was, man. We all have to make decisions as small as a decision I just talked about may seem to other individuals. For me, it is such a big thing. And so, for a game about choices, and for somebody who was going through a dilemma like that, it couldn't have been a better time to have experienced this game. So once again, that's 2 straight all-time masterpiece experiences that affected me personally. With Xenoblade 2 and now this one. The PS2 is home to so many incredible things, man. So many incredible games, so many incredible experiences. And this is right up there with the very best. My favorite PS2 games of all time have always been, you know, the Kingdom Hearts games on there, Final Fantasy X, the Metal Gear Solid games for sure. Metal Gear Solid 3 is my favorite PS2 game for a long time. I'm contemplating whether that's still the case. I'm really contemplating whether that's still the case or not, man. And that's where we're going to end this spoiler-free section. Thank you so much for watching. If you have not played the Xenosaga trilogy, if you've not played Xenosaga 3, because that's what mainly we're going to be talking about here, then thank you for watching, man. Spoilers in 3, 2, 1. Man, dude. coming off of Xenosaga 2, I was like, how are we going to wrap up this trilogy? Because the first game felt like such a movie. Or like Xenogears, for me, felt like it feels like a novel brought together in video game form. Xenoblade 1 feels like a video game, and I love it for that. Xenoblade 2 feels like a battle shonen manga made into a video game, which is why that game is so special to me. But Xenosaga 1 just straight up felt like a movie. Xenosaga 2 felt like an artsy movie. You know what I'm saying? One of those really cool, uniquely told movies that are ambitious and explore like really, really interesting stuff. As the middle of that game, especially whenever you enter Momo's subconscious in Sakura's room, and then how that leads into the flashback with Junior and Albedo, all that stuff was so fascinating to me and really emotional. And of course, the stuff at the end of the game, just incredible stuff. But I was wondering, with two games that were so similar yet completely different, how was the third game going to be? Was it going to follow more of that? Was it going to be like number one? I didn't know. Especially like with the art style changed to number two, and both of them felt so distinctly different. I was like, what are we going to get when we get three? It's like if 3 took everything that worked about both the first one and the second one and turned it up to like a trillion. I was genuinely floored. Even just in like the first like 5 to 10 hours of this game. When the game starts and you're on this mission, and this is before I experienced Missing Year, because I experienced Missing Year right after I shared the title screen, and somebody told me, oh, you should play Missing Year, or you should read Missing Year. And I was like, holy flat, I don't even know what that is. So I read that, I paused everything, I read that, and then I came back after the title screen, whenever you pause in the flipping space station, bro. When I saw that, dude, my heart was like fulfilled. I was like, oh man, dude, what are we got to cook in this game? But even before that, you go in there, and I was like, who are all these new characters? Well, it's been a year, what is going on? So I was like, man, I was so intrigued. And then it's similar to Xenoblade 2, it gets you right into the action. I mean, immediately into the action, right? And Xenosaga 2 starts with a really cool action sequence. It's super, super dope, right? And it led to some crazy goated stuff later on. But this one starts off immediately with Shion. And you're in there, you're in a mission, you don't know what's going on. She's left to Nectar, and it's like, what is happening? And so I'm over here losing my mind already. The game just started. So you're going in, you're doing your thing, you're boxing, and you start finding out slowly but surely what's happened and what's taking place. And so then you go up to the space station, you see that she spent this time away from everyone, attempting to do something because something happened with Vector, right? Where she distanced herself from that. And I was like, man, dude, very, very fascinating stuff, because most of my favorite, in a lot of my favorite stories, especially the long ones, there's a section where the main protagonists will have to go on a journey by themselves. And in that section, you will see just how integral and special that character ends up being to the viewer. And that's exactly what happened for me and Shion. Where even though I very much appreciated the character during the first 2 installments, even just in the first few hours of this game, I got really attached to Shion because she was the only consistent part of a party that kept maneuvering and changing, right? Like while everything else around her, and obviously she's the MC, so it's gonna happen, but it wasn't that way in especially in the previous installment. So it's like in this particular entry, starting off with almost a brand new crew, to then going by herself into that one like beach. I call it the Final Fantasy X place, where you watch up at the beach, and then you go around and you slowly putting the pieces together, but you're sticking with her and seeing the journey through her point of view and perspective. And I think that's what made all of the Udo scenes with her so incredibly personal throughout the course of the entire game, and they got more and more personal until the last encounter with Udo. That just was mind-blowing stuff in a personal way, well, up here as well, but mainly like touching the heart type of way. There was one particular scene that really stood out to me in regards to Shion's personal individual journey early on in the game, and that was when, after she passes out. I believe this is around the time when we've already made it back to I call it the Shinra Tower building, the big hotel building, and she made it up to her room. I believe it's around there where she passed out and had this particular sequence, which is she falls asleep or she passes out, which I was wondering. I was like, what in the world's going on with these stuff that keeps happening and knocking her out? But so you have a little like dream sequence where she wakes up and she's with Kevin, and they're both in a room together. It immediately reminded me of like one of the sequences at the end of Xenogears. Very, very similar. With one of the versions of Faye and Ellie in that game. Which, by the way, sweet mother of Flagnards. I can't wait to talk about that later. So you go there, and it's either a flashback or like an alternate reality, something that she's created. And so throughout the course of the entire scene, I'm thinking to myself, what in the flying fun is going on? Intentional, right? Because that is how a dream should feel, especially a dream of desire. And I believe it's either after or before that, she has a conversation with Udo, where it brings to the forefront the idea of desire and happiness. And I was like, that's a fascinating thing to explore in your game. Some of my favorite characters of all time have had to pick between their happiness and what's expected of them. Their calling, purpose sometimes. And so immediately a big Metal Gear Solid exclamation point went on in my head. I was like, that's interesting. I like where this is going. Because I was already fascinated by the Udo concept back with the scene with Junior and Albedo and Guinan in Xenosaga 2, where you get to find out more about what Udo is as a concept. It reminded me so much of the wave existence from Xenogears, which pretty much is exactly what it is in this particular iteration of it. So with that context, getting this scene, I was like, man, I'm fascinated I'm really interested on Udo. Because Udo feels simultaneously something so personal, we can have a one-on-one connection and conversation with it, while at the same time being so mass and universal, that is where everyone's collective thoughts and wills go to. And I was like, what a great representation of what a godlike concept would be in this series. Because that's exactly what it is, right? Both something personal and at the grandest of grand scale. And so automatically I was extremely invested on both Udo and Shion and that particular dynamic. And that's why I'm so glad that it continued to happen throughout the course of the game. And it's like Udo kept confronting Shion on her choices between her desire, her happiness, her fulfillment. So many different things came from the conversations with Udo, and I valued those conversations so much. But when it was first initially brought up like that, especially after the dream sequence, I was like, man, it just really stood out to me, because you hear so many times, right? Like, I wish I would have stayed in the dream that I was in, because it felt, better than reality. It felt like something that I would have loved to stay in, because you're having so much fun in the dream, and maybe in parallel and in comparison with what's going on in your life at the moment, or maybe you're suffering, you're going through something. The dream world just felt so so peaceful, so awesome, so much better than what you have right now. And I think what this game explores so well is how you can be stuck in that dream and then be given a choice between going back to a reality that's filled with so much suffering, filled with so much tragedy, or staying in that dreamlike sort of state. And the way that it's done in this particular version, because obviously that's a story that's been told before, but because of the context here, it made it feel so unique and personal, and just like, man, it made me want to put my, like, I felt like I experienced this entire thing through Shion's eyes, truly through her choices in her heart. Like, I felt it, man. I felt each individual choice, and it's truly impressed me, man. And so that, especially with what happens later on in the game, there's just so much there, so much greatness there. But you continue, man, and you reunite with the old cast. It felt so good to see the characters going to use them again. Then you have the one with Cosmos, where obviously in that entire section you want to go out and you want to save Cosmos, right? And then you have that battle underground. All this stuff is very fragmented in my mind right now because I just finished crazy stuff. I haven't slept. But you go back to that particular section, like current day, or you wake up and like, we're in the Flying Fighters. Is this place? You find out later on that that's actually Lost Jerusalem, which is Earth, bro, Earth. And it's like, oh, I love the Xeno stuff so much, man, because it's so fascinating, bro. But then you have that awesome moment with Cosmos and Telos. Telos obviously has the massive advantage, even from like Telos's first introduction. And actually, Telos is in Xenoblade, right? Because I remember when I first saw the design, I was like, man, I have this blade. I have this character in Xenoblade 2. And obviously it didn't clock in my head that who this character was, but now it hits way different context. I can't believe I have a character this cool in as like one of my blades in Xenoblade 2. But I was just like, man, all that stuff was going down. The mysteries continued to pile up with like the testaments and everything of the sort, right? And so a lot of stuff was popping off. But you got that really awesome and emotional moment with Cosmos. All of that stuff happens. Once again, this is all just jumbled in my head at this moment. There's just goated moments between Shion and Cosmos. You have so many of those in this game, bro. So many of them. And I couldn't help, every time one of those moments happened that like really made me feel emotion between those two characters, I couldn't help but think back to the first time. And now I feel nostalgic towards Xenosaga 1 because I've experienced it so long ago, right? I experienced it right after I played Xenogears. So like at this point, it's been so like 5 years. And so it's like, man, I actually feel nostalgic for like the beginning parts of Xenosaga. And so just every time something would happen with Shion and Cosmos, or like they would have like a conflict between the two, I would think back to the first part of that game where you're getting used to the controls and you meet Cosmos for the first time and all that. It's like, man, like it hit. And that's some of the coolest things about long-term stories, right? Is you're able to establish those connections and remind you of the beginnings of things. But so many great scenes with Shion and Cosmos throughout the game. But during that particular section, when you have to go rescue her, and it's like, man, dude, it was just insane, man. Let me pull up the images, bro. Let me pull up the images, and we'll talk just like we did in the Xenoblade 2 one. Because there was just so much greatness here, and let me see. Let's go up. Where's before the end of disc 1, man? Because that entire final stretch before the end of disc 1, bro. When she gets captured, from the point that Shion gets captured until the end of disc 1 was absolute like zenith fiction, bro. Adja was crazy. Okay, let me see. Okay, right here's the Telos, and and Cosmos battle, so peak. Oh man, bro, and this is the first time that you get to see Mary, and obviously at this point you don't know who that is, but it's like, what are we cooking here with that? That was only the end of chapter 3, bro. Wilhelm, what a flipping character, says it has begun. Oh, and here's the wonderful memory. So it was the beginning of chapter 4 where that was. And you wake up within the flashback. And I thought this entire sequence was so unbelievably cool. So you wake up within this place 15 years ago. And you're going to live through all the events that you've been hearing about for such a long time, right? You're going to live through these. And it was like, oh man, how cool is this? So, you start seeing the characters and how they were. You see like little Shion, you see Feb, you see Kev, how all of them were at this point in time, right? And it was just like, man, Joachim, man, what a character. Seeing his entire journey, both him and Shion's pops, from the beginning of the entire flashback section to the end of the flashback section, unbelievable stuff, man. Unbelievable stuff. This entire section, I was so locked in because of how similar to Xenoblade 2, how incredibly well paced it was. Where it was just like bam, 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 bam. And then the gameplay iterations would match the stuff that's happening. So if you're exploring a dungeon, obviously you're going to go in, and whether you're in the ES, in the Gundam, which 12 tribes of Judah for they go like, that's so cool. But going in and having being able to use the characters here in their Gundams or in as their regular selves, the gameplay, depending on the story, it would change, right? So either you're going through a long session where you're doing battle after battle after battle, doing a puzzle, and then going into the boss, or you could have in this particular section, which I flipping loved, man, an espionage section where you're going in Metal Gear Solid style, you're sneaking into the facility. It's just Alan and Shion. And it's already with what's happening there with those two characters, you want to see what blossoms out of this moment that only the two of them have together. But it makes it so much more intense when you don't have the rest of your party, bro. And things can pop off at any moment. It's like, man. So then you go in, you meet Joachim, you meet the pops, you see mom, and it's like, oh man. So it's on the emotional side of things, you're feeling, you want to continue exploring, but at the same time, you're a little like, man, what are we gonna find here? If stuff pops off, what's gonna happen? So, while this is happening, Cosmos is still obviously in as our black box has been destroyed, and we don't know what's gonna go down, but Shion's gonna do everything possible. So you meet with the pops, man. It's just back to back to back young Shion. Oh man, the stuff with the blonde-haired dude. What's his name? Virgil, bro. The stuff with Virgil, man. That stuff was so good. From the beginning of the journey with Virgil up until the end. Just unbelievable stuff, dude. Unbelievable stuff. And the end of chapter 5, Ziggy, Voyager. Bro, I was so glad I went through Pied Piper, man. Because Voyager was a flagnard, man. And it's you felt for him, but at the same time, it's like, man, what a piece of garbage. That man is a celestial dragon in the Xenoverse, bro. I mean, you don't do that with children, man. You know what I'm saying? That's like a big, huge no-no, man. You gotta catch the hands after that. You gotta catch the hands after that. And so it obviously makes so much sense with the Pied Piper concept and what the original fairy tale from, I believe it's Germany, entails with the Pied Piper and stuff, and the music that leads the kids and things of that nature. And it makes so much sense thematically, but still, screw that flagnard, right? So when I saw him again, I was like, yo, this is gonna be an opportunity for us to box this guy, because what a fascinating character Voyager was within Pied Piper. But actually having it here with the Ziggy and Voyager interaction again, man, it was like, dude, in real time. And so we got to have that. Cosmos returns. Unbelievably peak stuff, man. We have a super raw moment. Acknowledged. They're back to back. I was like, let's go. And in the midst of all of this, an emotional moment, then we have that moment with Shion and Joachim, bro. As they're both in that black and white section on the beach. This is our first time we're going to see Mary in that section that we will cut back to in that one of the best cutscenes ever later on in the game. But you know, Jin has a really cool line right here where he says, you know, you need your past to be who you are now, because at the beginning of the game, and it connects to actually what Wilhelm and them are trying to do later on in the game, which I think is why all of this is so important. Where he's like, you know, about the eternal reoccurrence and about having to redo things over and over again, right? And obviously, it reminds me of Xenogears and how, you know, they went through stuff over and over and over and over and over again, right? Where you got to see like different versions of Faye and Ellie throughout the years, generations, right? Throughout all that time, it reminded me of that type of concept, and how often we try to like rewrite things because they aren't right, or because we don't believe that that's the right decision at that point in time. But I think having those regrets, so much what Shion says at the end of the game, is a part of what makes us human. That's why I think it's so incredibly key for Shion to have that conversation with herself at the end of the game, both addressing Wilhelm and Jin. Because she's addressing Jin in this particular point, right? The Jin who says you need your past to be who you are now, and how many times she tried to reject that. Well, at the same time, the whole stuff with Wilhelm, when that was happening at the time, it's like she was able to come to a middle ground of understanding both Jin and Wilhelm as she understood herself, and what that meant, what Jin meant by that, and what Wilhelm meant by similar things at the end of the game, about the regrets that we have and how we want to rewrite history because of that, and redo things. But if we didn't go through that, we wouldn't be who we are today, and things wouldn't have happened the way they are. And I think that's so powerful to explore a concept like that within a series like this. But it all stems from this particular conversation to me, man. The Joachim and Momo stuff, obviously super emotional. Like I said, that's some of my favorite stuff from the saga too. So seeing that in like 4K 15 years ago, it's like, man, dude. Then you start getting the reveals about what really happened with the mom, and then the Kevin stuff, and it's like, oh man, dude. Then he pops up in front of her, and it's like, bro, what in the world is going on, man? It's just, what an unbelievable section, bro. End of chapter 6, and then here, bro. Dude, chapter 7 was unbelievably peak, man. I mean, this might be like one of gaming's finest chapters. Like this, obviously the end of this game as well. But my goodness, bro. Unbelievable chapter. It starts off with her imprisoned and being interrogated, right, by like Margulis and Pellegrini and them. From that point until the end of disc 1 is non-stop peak fiction. It is non-stop peak fiction, bro. It's crazy. You know, and then shout out to Pops, bro. Pops trying to save Shion. And you're like, man, dude, after this entire trilogy of her wanting to know and understand truly what happened with the Pops, you know, being able to live it. It was just unbelievable stuff, bro. You know, this conversation right here. You know, it's true that I'm sacrificing my wife and my family, but I want you to believe me. I just want to protect my family, even if it meant making the world my enemy. You know, I just... And then he says, like, yo, no matter what happens, just go out and save Shion, man. It's like he's telling Shion to save the other Shion. And I was like, bro, this stuff is so flipping good, dude. It's unbelievable. And I think what made all this stuff so powerful is what I was talking about earlier, where you are just with Shion for this entire first disc of the game, seeing the story through her eyes. Obviously, the other characters are there, and you switch through multiple different versions of the party, but she was always the constant lens through which you were viewing everything, man. And so when stuff really starts popping off, like I said, I felt it, bro. Like, I felt every inch of what she was going through in the moment, and it of course, that is an intentional thing to. And what everyone should strive for if they're creating like a first-person POV or a third-person close, right? Where, you know, it's not omniscient and you're looking at it through multiple different perspectives of multiple different characters, but when you're mainly staying through the perspective of one particular character, by a certain point, you gotta be attached to them, man. You gotta wanna, you know, you gotta experience everything that they're experiencing. That's some of the beauties of those types of stories. And so when you get to this type of stuff, man, especially in this chapter, I'm feeling everything Shion's feeling. I feel like I went through this entire journey with her, right? And it's like, man. So, you know, you had this conversation with Pellegrini and Jin, which obviously has major payoff later. Then she was like, oh, don't worry, my friends have come to rescue me. And this song starts popping off, bro. We know what that means. I was like, man, I kept thinking about that sequence from Xenosaga 1. Oh, man, dude. The Virgil greatness happens here. He sacrifices himself in order to save them. Oh, man, it's so big. Then Testament version of himself shows up. Then, see, it's how consistent this game is thematically, bro. You must accept who you really are. You just want to reject yourself. Everyone has to make a choice in this game that follows that. And I think what's so interesting is when we look back to Wilhelm's conversation, that the way that conversation starts at the very end of the game, in the final encounter before he activates Zarathustra, where he, unlike the other characters, lays out his reason for living, his reason for existence, and what his goal and purpose is. That's who I am. You may define me as the leader of Ormus and the leader of this and the leader of that. Those are all different phrases that define me, but I'll tell you what actually defines me, and he clearly defines who he is. And the way that's contrasted with every other character having to struggle, having to go through, I mean, just the deep and to truly find out who they are. Every character is presented with that choice in this game. Whether it's Virgil or in the Testaments, Voyager, Virgil, Kevin, all of them have to deal with this. Our entire main party, even outside of our main party, Pellegrini, Margulis, everything that happens, they all have to choose. Do you reject yourself? Do you accept yourself? And in some type of way. And I love how that contradiction happens, because the ones who, you know, that we didn't know who we are, we saw Shion's journey, we saw Cosmos' journey, yeah, I mean, our entire party's journey to understand who we truly are. And it was that ultimately ended up overcoming him in the end. Especially with the Kevin stuff. And it's like, it all comes back to this and how thematically consistent the whole game is, man. It's nuts. It's nuts. But you must accept who you really are. You want to reject yourself. You know, this is Feb, of course, talking. They have a really, really beautiful conversation. We just want to believe that a single thought can change the entire world and shape the future. Thematically consistent flipping game, man. It's beautiful, dog. I just love this type of stuff, man, you know. It's one of the reasons why I love Persona 3 as much as I do, because the entire game, it's like if they had a clipboard or like a big whiteboard and it said, this game is going to be about blank. It's what happened with Final Fantasy 7, right? Like the whole game is going to be about life. Welcome. Everything stems from that. Every single thing around that one thematic through line. And truly, I felt the same way about this game. You put the future, the hope and beauty of the future, and the choice that every human being must make. But everything stems from those, and it's just unbelievable how it resonates through each and every single character, man. Ah, man, this part with Feb, bro. Although my body is dead, I'm still here with you. I'm right beside you. There's no reason for you to suffer. You taught me that by sharing all of our feelings, that we would be able to change the world to a future for both humanity and realities, man. Oh, man, dude. It reminded me of like the stuff in Xenoblade 2, like the blades and the humans, right? And then they walk off. Shion's like, oh, what am I supposed to do now? Shion, I know it may be painful for you, but the time has come now that you decide that for yourself. Just carry out what you believe in your heart. Believe in yourself. Open your heart because she's right beside you. Oh, man, dude. Oh, my God. And the fact this is immediately followed up with the scene in the hospital room, bro. We go into Shion's mom's room. Shion drops on the floor because she was unable to stop Pops from getting taken out, and Mom, while young Shion is there. And I was told that in the uncensored version of the game, she is holding her mom's heart, and it made so much sense to why she was saying, like, please put it back. So you have young Shion losing it, you have adult, our version of Shion losing it. At the same time, stuff's popping off. I still can stop from happening. Please put it back. No explosion. we find out the truth that Shion called the Gnosis. And it was one of those reveals where I was like, oh my god, everything makes so much sense. Everything. The Song of Nephilim being the thing that calls them, how they all change and become these things, and rejecting themselves. The whole concept of the Gnosis at that point in time popped in my head. And honestly made me drive a connection between like what Takahashi was probably trying to say with the idea of the Gnosis, right? With individuals driven by a certain idea or concept, brainwashed to follow things to a certain end, or even that just might be the way that they are. You know, it reminds me of Evangelion, right? About a world that either rejects all coming together, or people that accept the fact that they all just want to dissipate and become one in the end. And I started thinking about all of that when this reveal of the Gnosis happened, and it made me understand potentially different avenues in which Takahashi was viewing the idea of the Gnosis for and what they represent in reality. And it was just an unbelievable sequence, man. Like getting that reveal, I call the Gnosis. Someone tell me what's going on. I was saying the same thing. The big, massive beam of light. It's a reality constructed inside of Shion's mind. It's like it's taking what I loved about Xenosaga 2, which was exploring Momo and Junior's entire story by going into Momo's subconscious and going, of course, into Junior's flashback and living through it and experiencing it. We got to do that in this game, but the way that it was done in this game was like, they took my favorite thing about Xenosaga 2 and perfected it. I mean, just perfected it, bro. It was unbelievable, man. Everything was supposed to begin here, but in order to awaken Abel, the resonance of the power between them was necessary. They were called by Shion when she was a child. Oh my gosh, man. And bro, the Abel stuff, especially when I think back to what happened in Xenosaga, or Xenogears with like the Cain and Abel stuff, and that at the flashback, I was like, oh, what are we cooking? What are we cooking? But of course, this is whenever you see the Kevin unmasked, and then you get the reveal, bro, that Shion is suffering from the same illness as her mother, and that Shion, you have an ability that others lack, but that power will eventually cost you your life. That's the reason for your recent headaches. Where it says, the test subjects assembled in this facility also the same ability as CG. The subjects are capable of communicating with Udu. But it all leads to their own death. And the very first thing I thought of is that one biblical passage that talks about, you know, anyone who sees God dies because they can't handle it, right? And it made me think of that, like, man, an interesting way of taking that concept and putting it into a story like this. And Shion, who reacts to Udu, loses her life force. The closer Shion and Cosmos' wills come together, the greater the stress on Shion. And it's shortening her lifespan, bro. And I was like, yo, so the closer they get to each other, the more they're killing each other, and I'm all for it. The Hedgehog's Dilemma idea and all of that. But this was breaking my heart, man. I was like, oh my god, we can't do this, bro. You know, Cosmo's gonna kill me. And she's so happy to see him again because she's like, yo, I bet Udu was like, yo, choose what you desire. This is what I desire. I want to be with you, Kevin. It's like, we'll always be together, but I can't. And Jin pops up in front. I love how this leads to something later too, with the thing that happens between Jin and them. Jin's like, yo, screw it. He's the man I love from the bottom of my heart. He's still my Kevin. And then Cosmos was like, F all that. Kevin Winnicott, I'm very sorry, but unfortunately I'm not programmed to follow your orders, even if you are my creator. Are you trying to defy your creator? And I was like, yo, Xenoblade, what? And the Cosmos. The Cosmos that was created by you has been destroyed by Telos, sir, which is so true. Shion Uzuki, and also Mr. Alan Ridgely. Those are mine. Oh, man. And then she forcibly takes Shion out. Then we go back to Joaquin, and Joaquin has a master. This starts Well, honestly, Virgil and Feb started it, but it just started out master of conclusion after master of conclusion after master of conclusion for all of these characters, man. Unbelievable stuff. My sins will certainly never be forgiven, but if it means to be born into a peaceful world, then so be it. He falls off. Julie, please take care of Momo. Take care of our child. Oh man, we cut back. Please switch to disc 2. Oh man, you got the final conversation with Wilhelm and Kevin before we get on. Disc 2 time. Disc 2 time. Give me a chance. Water break. Let's talk about disc 2, bro. Alright, y'all. It's time to talk about disc 2, man. Disc 2 of Xenosaga Episode 3, also Sprock Zarathustra. Dog, before we even get into this, oh man, dude, so you know we've been talking about the Udu scenes this entire time. Check this out, man. Yo, you know, because one of my favorite scenes coming off of Xenogears was that scene with the wave existence. Like that genuinely altered my brain chemistry forever. So that's why this Udu stuff has been so interesting to me. But check this out, man. Udu asks, and this is so key to so much of the entire final stretch in the game. Udu asks, are you afraid of your eventual death? With an able silhouette in the middle. Shion responds saying, afraid. I'm afraid. I'm afraid of being alone. Udu asks, are you afraid of your eventual death? Because it's coming. If you're human, that is something that is coming and you can't stop it. Shion's response is, I'm afraid of being alone. Not the death. Of being alone. That makes what happens later in the game with Jin, with Alan, with Cosmos in Shion's corner, Jin's final words, all of that hits extremely hard. Tying back to this scene, Udu asks, what does it mean to be alone? Is it more terrifying than death? They continue. Why does your face show such an expression after, of course, she starts showing uncertainty after being asked that? The final thing I've screenshotted here is, help me. Please, somebody help me. Someone help me. Tell me who I am. Because if you tell me who I am, I'll be able to answer your question. If you tell me who I am, I'll be able to give you a response as to, am I afraid of my eventual death? What I'm afraid of is actually being alone. All of that ties into who Shion actually is. And the idea of rejecting yourself. The idea of want, of desire and purpose and so many different things are tied into that. Of who are you? Once again, goes back to the Wilhelm conversation, goes back to the decision everybody has to make in this game, and also everyone's final moments, and then figuring out exactly who they are before they die. This was so incredibly powerful to me. Especially with endgame context and how all the testaments, going back to what Alan was talking about, how all the testaments, they're just afraid of death. And so they've chosen a path that will grant them some sort of way of their version of eternal life, right? Whereas heaven is a concept, that can grant someone eternal life, right? depending on the life they've lived. And for these testaments, Wilhelm has given them like the opportunity to be able to, even post-mortem for some of these characters. Which is what makes that concept justice interesting, right? Like, you think about all the different ways that religion has, multiple different religions, have explored what happens after death. And for Wilhelm to give them the decision to live eternally, but they're going to have to follow his orders to a T. It's just so fascinating, man. It's so interesting. But I love this entire conversation. And it hits that much harder coming off of what Shion had gone through in her past. The young Shion who had to go through all of that on her own. And you understand why she continues to this very day to shoulder so much on her own. When those who could have been there for her passed on for her. And it goes into the conversation that's also brought up in this very series about being human is being a burden to others, being a burden to those that you love. And that equivalent exchange that comes with that type of idea and concept. Because what you have here is a character who's gone through so much, had to bear so much of it alone, even though there were many different shoulders after that she could cry on, from Jin's to Alan's, to the rest of the party members, like a Junior, or a Momo, or a Ziggy, or even those like outside, like a Mary and a Shelley, or whoever. All of these different individuals she's met since then, the answer that she comes to later on, but her past haunts her so much that she believes she still has to go through everything on her own. And that to her is something worse than death. That's going to be an escape from that. But choosing to live on, even in the midst of all of that, is what makes that entire final stretch so incredibly beautiful to me. And it ties back to this, man. It ties back to this. And then Shion and Cosmos have a great conversation about this, about like, are you going to kill me? At the present time, I'm restricted from taking actions that would jeopardize your life. Oh man, dude, why do you protect me, Cosmos? Protecting Vector employees is still registered in my program as a matter of high priority. This is still quote-unquote robot Cosmos, which is what, tying this back to something that happens later on, that's what allows that to hit that much harder. Cosmos has something about her heart. I am unable to determine that. Being able to discover what her heart is, thanks to Shion, that incredible flashback sequence, or the sequence where they enter like the flippin' craziness, and one of the best scenes in the game. I'm afraid, I'm so scared no one's going to save me. Such a consistent part about Shion's journey, which is why when Alan and Cosmos are the ones to do that at the end, when Jin and them stand up for her, oh my god, it's what allows that to be hit so hard, bro, because the entire time she truly believed no one would save her, dog. And so it's like, man, dude, I don't want to be alone, Cosmos. Nephilim coming in and saying, Shion, don't reject everything. Oh, man, it's just... We finish chapter 8, and then we get another just phenomenal scene, man. We get the reveal that Wilhelm has actually been the one behind Ormus and all of this, the Federation, Vector, all of it. So he pops up behind Margulis. Margulis says, Your Eminence, is that what you look like? Oh, man, dude, this... But it seems your faith was too strong, bro. What a lie, man. All of this stuff was so interesting to me, man. It began from the death of the man you worship as your Lord, but his true purpose was to manage the words that he passed on. All of that was actually really working up here of like, that is really fascinating stuff that he's saying. The program that you call Lemmageddon is in fact those words. And I created an organization to manage and watch over those words. The importance of those words that were left behind. All of them are beyond human control. It's just so fascinating to me, man. And then as, Margot's losing his mind because he's like, yo, my entire life's purpose is just, what am I supposed to do now? Or what should I do now? You're telling me that all of this was a lie? It was meaningless? And Wilhelm says, you needed words, faith, to define who you are. And I think that ties into Pellegrini and Margulis's end so well, man. You needed words, faith, to define who you are. And when you see how Pellegrini decided to take things into her own hands and die at the hands of the man that she loves, taking control, what she believes is taking control of her life in that moment, after having been puppeteered her entire existence. A Margulis who very similarly decides to want to take things on his own hands, into his own hands, and go out on his own terms. And it leads back to these lines right here, man. All we've worked for was meaningless. It wasn't meaningless as long as you yourself believed it wasn't meaningless. And I'm not gonna lie, when Wilhelm said that, it hit, because I was like, that's so much of our existence, right? We give meaning to the meaningless. What may appear to be meaningless on the surface, we give meaning to, and we make it to have as much value and meaning as it could possibly can have. It has as much value or not as much value based on the meaning that we give it, man. We're the ones that give things purpose. We're the ones who give things value. We're the ones who give things meaning. So when he said that, I was like, dang, dude, that's a bar and some change right there, man. Like, after everything that he just said, it was like, no, it wasn't meaningless. Look at everything that you've gone through. Look at the experiences you've gone through. Look at the people that you've met. It wasn't meaningless as long as you believe it wasn't meaningless, man. On the surface, it may appear to be meaningless, but peel the layers back a little bit. And it was both a savage comment coming from him, but also a very truthful, factual, thought-provoking comment as well. Where I was like, man, dude. And then comes him stating the statement that sort of encapsulates what all the characters in this game had to go through, which is, now what will you do, Margulis? You must make a decision that will define who you are. And every single character in this game, major character in this game, had to come to the exact same decision. And Wilhelm is just presenting it right off the bat. Of course, this is where we get the Pellegrini thing with her and Jin, extremely emotional stuff. The people of Zohar arriving to this planet after a long wandering journey, man. Unbelievable stuff, bro. Just, gosh, man. Deception. It's true that it was all deception. What we all did was meaningless. Give, freely, accept, or reject. Everyone was walking their own path. Ours just simply did not cross. Oh, man, dude. Farewell, Jin. I mean, so many great lines between the two, man. And it must have been killing Jin. We immediately go from that into the Ziggy and Voyager finale between the two. And this stuff right here, once again, I'm so glad that I played through Pied Piper, or that I watched Pied Piper, the playthrough of Pied Piper. Because, man, dude, we meet up with Voyager. Oh, man, we go back to the site where this man took out Ziggy's wife and kid. And then that's where Ziggy made his ultimate decision that led to where he is today. Oh, man, dude. For the Kanan stuff, man. Lactus, we find out the truth that was being built up from earlier in the game. Junior's like, man, don't tell me that's so, bro. And Kanan's like, no, that's how I've been programmed, dog. Voyager goes out, amazing conclusion. Oh, man, the Kanan moment. What an amazing flipping conclusion to his character, man. You must face your punishment. I don't want to see anyone else I care for die before my eyes. Another reason to exist. Captain, I mean, come on, man. Come on, dude. Absolute greatness, dog. We go over. This is the one where we get the Margulis and Jin. And what was really, really cool piece of a dungeon here. I really, really enjoyed this. This game had a lot of cool dungeons. I think my favorite's still the Ark. The Ark and like the final dungeon with like the craziness that was happening there. But that was like my favorite in this game. I think my overall favorite in the series is still the tree. But after that, I think it'd probably be the Ark, man. The Ark was so cool in this game. Like, and the Ark from this game is probably my number 2. It was super, super dope. I just like the concept, man, from both a gameplay standpoint and what it meant for the story. It was super dope. But also, man, that final dungeon was goated too, man. I think the reason why I might love that Ark section so much, specifically because of the way that it concludes, is because you're doing it from like both the regular and then you're also doing it in your Gundams. So it's like both of them coming together. And as a massive Trails fan, that's always a good treat. But then you have this finale part here with Margulis and Jin, man. The remains of a dream, bro. The repetition of the nightmare. The word martyrdom seduced and clouded my eyes. And I love what Margulis says here. He says, Uzuki, those who died with their beliefs were the happy ones, but what about me? Like, those who died believing that their cause was right, they're happy. They lived fulfilled. They lived believing that what they were doing was for was for the truth, was for their purpose, was for what they were called to do. And Margulis is like, but what about somebody who lived on after that lie was exposed? What about me? Those individuals, they passed on fulfilled. But what about those of us who still have to live on? And I thought that was, what a powerful thing to say. There's nothing more pathetic than a pet who's been abandoned by his master. Lacking the strength of the wild, he merely exposes his pitiful form to the world and waits to die. And he's like, yo, then why do you still want to fight me? And Margaret's like, yo, even a fool still has his pride. What a character, bro. What a character. And then he says, but after being betrayed and rejected by all I believed, and there's still one thing left for me. You, Uzuki. My showdown with you was the only thing that will not betray me. That's the one thing that still gives me purpose. And as a man, I will leave my mark upon the world. And I love that line so much, man. You got an awesome battle. Gundam greatness. Ah, oh, man. You were exceptional. The old fool had at least a good eye. But your strength means that you will always be alone in this world. You've cast aside the few people who understood you by your own hands. And now there's no one left who understands you. And I think what's so beautiful about that is that when the closing credits happen, Shion understands her brother. There was someone who understood him. Not just him, but also Chaos understanding him as well in those final moments too. And so it's like, man, all this stuff just ties together, man. It's unbelievable. I've lived to settle the score with you, and at this moment I'm not going to lose to you. Obviously, it goes down after that powerful final sequence there. The Zohar stuff. Come on, man. Come on, dude. We cut over. She passes out for what I believe is the last time to have the Uru conversation. Then we clearly see Abel's face now. Who is that? Why do you appear before me? Who are you, Abel? This form is what you have defined me as. If you call this form Abel, then I am Abel. Once again, giving definition to... It's very similar to what Wilhelm said about the phrases that individuals call me, but that's not necessarily what I am. You know, a name, for example, is something that defines someone on the outside, but that's not who they are. They aren't their name, you know. So if you have decided to call this form, define me that by that name, then sure, that's what it is. They continue their conversation. Everything about you, everything about this world. Is pain a method to recognize yourself? Why do you all seek pain? That was interesting. That was a fascinating line. Shion responds, I don't know. I don't know either. And Abel's like, if you don't know, I don't know either as well. And it made me think, right? It's like, You think about someone being a creator. They create something to be as best as it can possibly be. That thing starts making its own decisions, and then eventually that thing starts experiencing pain. And they're like, why in the world do you do this to yourself? If you would only just listen to me, you would be going through the pain. But that's what makes them them. That's what differentiates the thing that's been created from the creator. That is what makes them them. And if they don't know why it is they do this, then the creator is not going to know either. And I just thought that was so fascinating to have that be the conversation between Uru and Shion that leads us into this final stretch. Pain being a method to recognize yourself. No matter how much you hurt yourselves, no matter how much you hurt others, it won't make you feel better, so why? Shion, why do you exist in this world? What does your heart try to see in the abyss of despair? Where is the real you? The real me? I'm right here. Where is the real you? Or no, I already said that. I don't understand. Where am I? I want to know, what am I? Who will define me? That's right, I'm alone, and only that song heals me. This is coming from Uru. This is coming from Abel. That's right, he's the only one who heals me. So they're able to have this conversation, and it's sort of like blending the lines between Shion being the creator of the reality that caused the 15 years ago flashback, where all of that came from her subconscious, and then like all of this stuff coming from the will of Uru, right? And how those clash, then giving us this line as their final conversation with each other. I want to know who am I? Who will define me? That's coming from Uru. And then Uru says, that's right, I'm alone. Only that song heals me. And Shion immediately relates that to her life and says, that's right, he's the only one who heals me. Referring to Kevin. And it's like, oh man, unbelievable stuff. And then you get what I want is going into everyone's desire. Everyone's personal internal desire and why it drives them to do the things they do, man. Nephilim pops up. In distant past, you laughed and cried together with you. She is your other half, obviously referring to Mary. Oh man, she must awaken to save the universe. So forced you to make a painful choice. I mean, the thematic consistency of this game, dude. Her awakening will erode and chisel away your life. And if you were to turn back here, no one will blame you. Everyone knows your pain. Shion's like, my pain? No one knows anything about me. Coming off of the conversation with Uru, bro. The only one who listened was Kevin. And Nephilim's trying to tell her, like, yo, that's not true. Shion, everyone listened. Everyone wants to protect you. And Shion's like, you're just saying the same thing everybody else is. Then why didn't they save me? They stayed away from me like I was some kind of disease. It would have been better if I'd been denounced or condemned. Them staying away from me, ignoring me, was the worst thing that could have ever happened. They left me alone. If they would have bullied me, if they would have told me to die in a ditch somewhere, it would have been much better than just ignoring me, bro. Leave me alone. And now you understand why she fears that more than death itself, man. Shion, please don't lose sight of yourself. Don't let his words overcome you. And they have been. And they will continue to do so until the end of the game. You don't have to worry. I'll open the seal, but it won't be for any of you. It's for my own sake and take responsibility for what's happened to the universe. Alan tries to stop her. Alan comes close to saying, I've always loved you. Says, I'm worried about you. Shion blames herself. I summoned the Gnosis. I caused the destruction of the universe and everything. Alan's like, but after that doesn't mean that you have to take on everything on yourself. And if we put our heads together, we can find another way. And Shion asks him, Alan, what power do you have? And we find out exactly what power he has. And she asks, can you save me? Can you save my life? Man, going back to the Lost Jerusalem, and it's so insane, bro. Thinking about the fact that this is Earth. it leads into one of the greatest scenes in the series so far, man. It's a memory from when this land was alive. You see Chaos, Cosmos. It goes into flashback, bro, and it shows, man. It shows the world as it was. The moment that I saw this, the very first thing that I'm sure not only I thought of, but everybody else thought was like, bro, is this Jesus back in his time? With, the times of the Bible when all would gather to listen to his story and see the miracles he performed? And I was like, there's no way, it can't be. There's no way. They wouldn't have localized the game. That's what stopped. That's what made the Xenogears localization so interesting, is because of the differences between the actual script and the localization, changing a lot of the stuff, right? Because they were like, we don't want to get in trouble. Even Xenoblade 2, from what NL told me, the differences in translation between the version we got, which was still an awesome localization, by the way, and the version in Japanese. When I heard those differences, I was like, wow, that changes a lot of how that final part is interpreted in my heart, man. It honestly elevates things. So when I heard that about Xenoblade 2, and I heard that about Xenogears, I was like, man, but for them to outwardly say so many of these things, bro, so many full government names, and actually showing it, I was like, oh, how in the world this game get localized? I don't know. I don't know how this game was put on shelves. Crazy. In 2006, mind you. Mid-2000s. Oh, man, we see this, bro. And it's nuts, man. And it's really powerful stuff, bro. It is one of the most powerful scenes I've ever seen. We cut over, we see it. We see how Mary must have felt upon him leaving. I'm going to assume for the day he was crucified. I was like, oh, man, dude. Like, man. Despair washes up. We see Cosmos turns back into Mary with tears. You've lost sight of yourself just like me. Shion comes close to understanding herself because of Cosmos. They then understand each other. Dude, this scene is so powerful, man. You've lost sight of yourself just like me. You don't know who you are anymore. I understand. Let's find out together. Let's find out together. Little did she know that's exactly what it would be. And it's so beautiful, man. All right, let's try and find out who I am and why you are here. Our purpose, man. Our calling, bro. Unbelievable stuff, dude. And we cut over to the current time, and Cosmos is now awakened. And to the real self, Telos shows up. They drop the full government, man. Magdalene, bro. I was like, what? What are we doing? This is crazy. They start boxing. Man, Zarathustra shall speak. Oh, man. Then Cosmos comes in, rawness and swag. If your existence will... Listen, Talos, if your existence will bring harm to my friends in any way, then I'll be forced to stop you. Oh, man, dude. They start boxing. She defeats Telos. I'm sorry, Telos, but this is goodbye. They come together. Beautiful stuff, man. We finally go to Wilhelm, man. The stuff is popping off in the universe. Cosmos tells Shion, but you are still uncertain. If you meet him as you are now, you may lose sight of yourself. And Shion's response is exactly what makes this game so special, because she says, what does that feel like? You're right, I'm uncertain. I don't even know where I stand. But that's exactly why I want to see him. And I think what's so incredibly beautiful about that is the way that I think that can connect to any of our lives. We're always lost, right? Truly never having our feet planted 99% of the time. But if we wait until the day where we have everything together, we're never going to get anything done. And this is something I love about Shion's character, to where even though she understands that she doesn't, her full self is not here, she wants to find out what she really is. But if she doesn't add positive motion to that, if kinetic energy does not start moving and she attempts to get closer to that and just stays still, nothing's going to happen. That day of perfection is never going to come. So I love what she says here. And like, man, you're right. I'm uncertain. I don't know where I stand. But that's exactly where I want to see him. To understand it, to see where I truly am. And that's some really beautiful stuff, man. Because like I said, how many times have you waited until the perfect day to go do something? No matter how minuscule or major it may be. Where you're stopped from making progress because you're just waiting for the perfect time. There's no such thing as a perfect time. Who you are today is who you are today, and only that person can make or do what it is you're about to do. Sure, you in 5 years may have more experience, but how much more time are you going to lose before then? And I think that's why this conversation is so beautiful to me. Like, I don't have to find myself before moving forward. Moving forward is how I find myself. It's amazing stuff, man. Let's go. Kevin is waiting. And then we get into the final stretch, man. We found out the truth about how Wilhelm and Kevin first met. The eternal recurrence, which as a flipping Trails fan is nuts, and with context. But it's like, man, when we start getting the reveals back to back about why Kevin's been doing this, his connection to Wilhelm, his connection to Shion, and that's when Alan, big money, big Cape 7 Alan delivers what starts probably my favorite stretch in this entire game, man. Because this stuff is peak, bro. This stuff is why I love One Piece as much as I do for the way it's able to have emotional payoff for very long-term stuff. Like when the Celestial Dragon Punch, that stuff was built up for so flipping long, man, throughout that entire stretch of the story. So when it happens, it's like, it's so satisfying, bro. Those moments of euphoria, of satisfaction that are so flipping amazing to just feel inside. That's exactly what we got out of this. And it was the entire trilogy leading toward it, man. Undoubtedly, right up there for favorite scenes in the entire series so far, bro. Unbelievable stuff. Hey, yo, how can you say that, Alan? You try to make it sound good, but in the end, all you were doing was using her. You think you're allowed to do anything you want if you're to protect someone's life? That it's alright to ignore the chief's feelings? I refuse to accept that way of doing things. Where is it, bro? Shion stands with Kevin. Jin is like, we ain't doing none of that. They start boxing. My heart was torn. I reminded me of a trail scene where you have to fight someone you love so much, and it's like, oh no, man. And it's like, I don't want to do this, bro. You go in, you have to fight her and Kevin, and it's like flipping flagnards. Then Alan gets in the way. It's like, no, we're stopping this right now. I'm gonna do this, bro. You all have to get a hold of yourselves. I've had enough. I didn't come here to do something meaningless like this. We're all fighting to protect the universe so we could survive, right? He's like, oh, man. He tells him, yo, shut your mouth, Kevin, dog. Everyone here is resolved to face that fight. No one can laugh at that resolve. Yet, yes, you lost confidence in your ability to live as human beings and just ran away. You're talking about the Testaments. Because they were scared of death, they couldn't stand being weak. They were all just trying to run away from the harshness of reality. How powerful is that? Going back to what we were talking about earlier. To run away, you have no. Kevin says you have no power. You can't even win the heart of the one single woman you love. That struck, man. That's right. Alan says that's right. I'm a weak human being, and to you, I'm only an insignificant, powerless creature. But I'll never leave the chief and run, and I will stand firm on this spot and save her no matter what. Then Kevin puts him to the test. Says, all right. Starts absolutely destroying him. I mean, black eye, face destroyed. I mean, he just looks horrible, man. And he starts mocking him. Weren't you going to stand firm? Look at you. You think you could save Shion? Shion's like, yo, just leave him alone. He can't even stand up on his own. And then he's like, yo, how do you feel being pitied by the one you love? And Alan says, sympathy? You don't understand the chief's suffering like I do. And I love this so much because all she's ever wanted for someone to understand her, not understand her pain, understand her feelings, bro. So when she says this, sympathy, you don't understand she's suffering like I do. I understand her feelings, her pain, her sadness. She struggled alone to do everything she possibly could. You don't have any idea how much she's been hurt. How could anyone like you understand? I wanted to cry in her place, and I wanted to be the one to feel her pain because I wanted to spend my life together with her. I was like, Alan, man. I know that I may not be able to do much in this world, but I would absolutely do anything for her. Oh, man. Mother of God, did you know that was the case? The feelings I have won't ever change for her. All I could ever do was watch her from afar, and there's no way I could ever abandon her. I won't lose to someone like you who has only run away. I'm taking Shion back no matter what happens. Kevin goes in, fires a blast, and Cosmos puts a stop to it, almost saying, well done, soldier. I am picking up what you're putting down. Let me finish the job. You're almost there. And Cosmos, it's all right, Alan. I do understand your feelings. I can feel your pain. And I can also feel Shion's pain. And Kevin's like, you truly are a failure. Cosmos ignores that and says, Shion, please tell me. Is this what you really want? What the whole game has been talking about? Want, desire. What is it that you truly want? Do you really want to betray everyone? Doesn't this make you sad? Kevin goes into fire once again. And this time Shion stops him. I was screaming, man. And she says, all I ever wanted was to be with you. As long as I could be by your side. But now I know that's not true. It's wrong for me to sacrifice others for it. And if I run into the past, and I love how the cinematography was showing her distancing herself farther and farther away from his hands. I was like, if I run away into the past, man, thematic consistency, thematic brilliance is repeating the misery inside me. I'm sure we would be happy together. There's nothing that I would want more. I can't stand the idea of being the only one who finds happiness. She's sacrificing her own happiness for the happiness of those she flipping loves, man, because that in and of itself is going to provide her happiness. If I can't share with everyone, then there's no meaning to happiness. If you force me to choose, then I won't hesitate. I stand with them. When I tell y'all, for those of y'all who watch my One Piece videos, that was a Santa hat, triple Santa hat, double Jordan jersey, flip the camera over moment, man. Camera-sama would not have resisted. I was screaming, dude. I was like, this is peak flipping fiction, man. This is like Xenoblade 2 chapters like 6 to 10 levels of peak fiction. You know what I'm saying? Where I was like, oh, this means something to me, man. This is absolutely peak, bro. I stand with them to save the universe. I'm no longer your tool to play with. And I was like, peak, go. God, man. Favorite moment in the game, dude. Favorite moment in the game. Just tied the bow on the entire trilogy up until this point. And solidified its greatness, solidified its placement as like one of those favorites to me, man. Unbelievable stuff, bro. Storytelling brilliance. God, it's inspirational, honestly. Inspirational, man, to want to write something like that. And this is when Wilhelm gets into the picture, the Aura Manus himself. The ESs start coming together. This line where he talks about being defined and the preciousness of limited life, the beauty of death. You're intoxicated by that narcissism. It's such an incredibly human choice for her to deny that. Zarathustra is one of the systems created by people in ancient times. Large numbers of wills that are already gathered here. Reminded me of Persona 3, actually. There was a line in Persona 3 that's always stuck with me that spoke on the fact that there's so many people who, whether it be subconsciously or consciously, just want it all to come to an end. Just want to all dissipate into each other. They await that day. They could feel it coming. And there are those that really wish for it. That always stood out to me, man. Especially whenever you give it like a religious connotation and context to that. Like, it was one of those life-changing lines that really like changed my perspective and sort of like turned the light bulb out in my head. And so when Wilhelm starts talking about Zarathustra and what it does, and a large number of wills that all come together here, it sort of reminded me of that. They all reject the world as it is now and wish for days long past. And Shion's like, that can't be. There's no way everyone will reject the universe. But it made me think about the reality that we're living in right now, and I'd be like, if this were to happen right now, we actually challenge the wills of the universe against each other, just how many would make the decision that Wilhelm is talking about, rejecting the world, wishing for the days of long past? How many times have y'all, even just in casual everyday conversation, heard the term, like, I wish I could go back and live the good times again. I wish I could go back and do X and Y. Rejecting reality, rejecting the current reality. It's some really powerful stuff, man. Gnosis are the form of people who have rejected others in the world. They seek salvation. Faced with being overcome with loneliness and fading away, they choose instead to return everything to the beginning. Fascinating stuff, man. I mean, truly, truly thought-provoking and fascinating stuff. As everything gets put together, Shion thinks back to the dream. Kevin Winnicott comes in, redeems himself. The betrayal. Then oh my god, Cosmos, bro. I forgot about this scene. How could I forget about this scene, man? Yo, another Santa hat moment, bro. Cosmos comes in, and I'm like, what is she doing? What in the world is Cosmos doing, man? She picks up Shion, but in the back of my head, I was like, oh, something's about to happen. So Wilhelm's like, yo, bring her to me, and bring the pendant too. And he says, how does it, the fate has been destined, you can't define me. How does it feel by someone you once trusted in order to save you? To be betrayed by someone you once trusted. In order to save you, marry and test to ignore your will. And she picks up the pendant and crushes that flipping thing. I was like, let's go! Let's go! And in that moment, she pulls a Monkey D. Luffy, and it's like, yo, is this what you really want? Mary? And she's like, I ain't no Mary. The red eyes come back. I am Cosmos, and the focus on the eyes go from blue to red. I was like, go, go. I was like, nah, man. This is actually like sensational material. This is all-time stuff that I'm experiencing here in this. Just what a game, man! What an unbelievable experience. This, of course, leads into the final stretch here. We go into the final boss. Shout out to Winnicott, man. We gotta destroy it. We end up doing it. This was the longest boss fight of the game. It took like 2 hours, man, because it was just so incredibly difficult. But we finally do it. You can shape it into the future you desire. Then her and Kevin had this final moment together that was so unbelievably emotional. White background. You know, since the day that I first met you, I may have been waiting for this day to come. The thing, man, holding on her hands, the same way she did it as young Shion. I know that you placed everything inside here. I'll keep going. It's waiting for me. And I love how we go from that into the Abel and Nephilim stuff, and I'm like, ah! Oh my god. They walk out. They start talking about the fact that this place, the place of origin that they've been protecting for so long, it is actually the origin of life, man. Earth. It's Earth. And immediately, my Xenogears and Xenoblade mind was going like, oh man. Oh man. I love when Xenos, bro. Earth, our homeland. But the potential brought by the light of your will is unlimited. If mankind has enough time to build upon your feelings, then perhaps. And then Chaos and Cosmos make the ultimate decision to go and decide to prolong, the universe. It's for going even if it's only for a few tens of thousands of years. I and the Gnosis, the wills of countless people, will all return there. It's the origins. And I was like, man, Chaos, bro. All of this. I'd been wondering where his character was going to lead to. And what a powerful thing to decide there at the very end. For both him and Cosmos. And then we have the final interaction between the two, man. And my heart was broken, bro. This was tears were dropping. and more than they already had. Here you are. After all this time, I finally found the real you. We're gonna be apart again, right? This time we'll spend apart will be an instant in the flow of universal time. We'll meet again. So please don't be sad, Shion. I think it is the most natural thing for me to say. Thank you for everything. And I was like, no, thank you, bro. And we had their hands. I was like, no, thank you, man. Thank you for letting me be a person looking out this from afar. The Zohar stuff pops up. Jin lifts him behind. I'm like, no, not Jin too. And then Jin, man, bro, Jin says a line here where he says, you're not alone. You have all these wonderful friends in my heart, bro. Then Shion starts asking for forgiveness. And I was like, no, stop. Forgive me. This is when I was unable to say anything from this point forward. From this point until when I started recording this video, I barely spoke like 5 words. I was overwhelmed. Just overwhelmed my emotion, man. Forgive me, please forgive me. I bid you all farewell. I was so happy to be your sister, so thank you. And then, bro, the moment when Alan protects Shion, bro, that thing was so beautiful. And then we see Jin's just generational conclusion to his character journey, man. I don't think it's ever been this quiet before in my whole life. I long for those hectic and chaotic days that once were. What an amazing line, man. And then we go over to Cosmos after that, man. After Jin dies. Thank you. Cosmos then, after Jin dies, decides, no, I want to protect her too. Thank you. I know that I failed to protect you back then. I will do it this time. We see she barely has her body parts. When she goes up, the explosion happens. And then we get to the part that I've been waiting for. I knew that there had to be some sort of connection. Because after all that emotional excellence, Ellie from the end of Xenogears, in the exact same state, pops up before Abel, and my mind was losing it. I was actually losing it, bro. I was losing it from my emotion, my heart, my tears, and then my brain exploded when I saw Ellie pop out, man. Oh. Generational video game, man. Generational video game. Come back to the Elsa. And she was like, I know it's chaos. The Elsa gains wings. They escape. And then we get the final sequence here, man. You're going already? I know. But I made a promise to chaos. I know that somehow I'll reach Lost Jerusalem, aka Earth. Earth. Mama was like, thank you. We'll take care of this place. Ziggy, man. He's gonna take care of the squad. Momo. Asking for a message to be passed on to Albedo. I was like, man, oh my god. Bro, for some reason, none of that stuff was on here. I forgot to talk about the Albedo stuff. Dude. The final, that entire part of the arc with Joachim, with Albedo, with Guinan, with all of that happened, man. Oh, dude, the conclusion to Albedo, Junior, all of that. I thought their Saga 2 ending was peak flipping fiction. Their ending in this game surpassed that like tenfold. Oh, man, the cinematography, everything about Albedo, Junior, man, that stuff, it's so hard. That just reminded me. I can't believe that wasn't the big pictures that were here. I know I took pictures of it. And they probably got lost to peak. But I was like, man, unbelievable stuff, dude. Until then, I'll keep waiting until you finally come back. Momo says, as Shion, Junior, and Alan continue. And then we get the lines that bring this all together at the very end. And I was listening to this song this morning while I was processing my existence. What Wilhelm wanted to do just a little bit better. Oh, I think it starts from here. Living the same life over and over again, but living those lives without regrets is what really matters. It's probably what the ideal vision of being human is all about. However, we humans are really not that strong, that we can't live like that. We're creatures that are much more flawed, weak, and smaller than that. We hurt others, we lie to ourselves, we hate, we blame others, we regret. But even if we are weak, and even if it is our fate to disappear entirely, I think the will to change the future is still an important one. And we must try to change the things around us little by little, even if it is one step at a time. And even if everything is already predetermined, it's not something for us to be sad about. No. On the contrary, the future is overflowing with hope, and we have infinite paths to choose from. Isn't that right? Chaos? Cosmos? No better lines could have possibly ended this game, man. Chaos promises to live on as people as long as the universe desires it. We will continue to exist. We haven't finished what we need to do yet. Cosmos, we see her. Sleep well, Cosmos, and we see her floating in space. We see her floating in space as the Xenosaga title comes up. That was the end of this game, man. An unbelievably generational experience, man. I never thought the day would come when I finished Xenogears that the reason why when I finished that game that I decided to go into other mediums to try to find if anything could scratch that itch was because I didn't think anything in this franchise would be able to follow that up. But little did I know that I wouldn't have just one entry over Xenogears. I would have 2 entries in the series over Xenogears. Because I love that game with every fiber of my being. But this one was just felt so personal that I have to put this right under Xenoblade 2. This was so exceptional, man. From beginning to end, I was so invested with the characters and the story and the themes and everything about it, man. It just really spoke to me. And I loved every single second of it, man. And so today, if I could just leave y'all all with one thing, it's that we all have to make decisions, man. Every single last one of us have to make choices that define who we are the same way that that this entire game talks about. But I think we should all strive to be like Shion. That even if we don't know ourselves, even if we don't know who we are, and even if we stumble along the way and make horrible decisions along the way, the path towards the future is filled with hope. And there are infinite paths to choose from. So as long as we continue down that journey, we'll find ourselves eventually. And what more powerful of a message than a series about the journey through the ages, through multiple different perspectives, through multiple different realities and time periods. That they're all about finding yourself and believing in the hope that the future of mankind can provide. It's so beautiful, man. Thank you so much for watching. This has been the Xenosaga 3 Spoilercast. Let me know your thoughts on this game in the comments down below if you have experienced it. And I will see y'all next time for the Xenoblade 3 experience, man. Shion, Cosmos. And the thing is, the game ends on such a massive cliff. It ties everything up so well, but it also feels like it ends on a cliffhanger. And like now I wonder, are we ever going to continue that? Is it just another Xenogears situation where, we thought it was going to continue on, it didn't? I don't know, man. But I'm just grateful I went on this journey. What an amazing game, dude. Thank y'all so much for watching. Take care. Shout out to the squad, man. Shout out to the squad, man. Alan and Shion, Cosmos Jr., Momo, Chin, dog. My boy Chin, man. Ziggy. Dang, dude. Come on, man.